Hi, I'm Sandy Ray, CPA, where we alleviate financial headaches so that you can create a bigger impact. Today, I want to talk to you about nonprofit organization financial statements for benchmarking. Now, benchmarking seems like a buzzword. Some of us use key performance indicators, others use financial dashboard, but whatever it is that you're calling it, the old saying is true. What gets measured gets managed. We all know that there are steps that we should be taking to improve our organizations and to better accomplish our mission. The questions are, what do we measure to meet those goals? And how do we measure it in a cost-effective way? I've broken this down into 6 steps that I want to go over with you a little bit today. The first step is to figure out what you need to measure by benchmarking. So you have to sit down and figure out what drives the success of your organization. If you are going to be efficient in your meal serving, what is the food cost per meal? If you're going to be successful in performing on those grants, what are the specific grant performance objectives? And are there certain financial ratios that you want to be watching to make sure that you are successful financially? Maybe you're looking at liquidity indicators. There's several areas that I want you to consider when considering benchmarking. Of course, we have our programs and our fundraising efficiency. But we also want to look at our reserves, our program revenues, maybe even our average contributions. Some organizations like to look at expenses. Those are important financial ratios as well. The second step is to set a baseline. We need data to determine what our baseline is or our starting point. Where are we now? And where do you want to be? Where are we starting from? We can determine that by using our own financial data, past and present. And if you're a new organization, that data may be limited. But if you've been in operations for a while, you may have a vast source of information. But there are other places we should be going as well. We can be looking at other organizations outside of our own organization. And the beauty of nonprofits is we have public disclosure requirements that we as nonprofits can look at other nonprofits and see how we're doing in comparison, especially an organization that's very similar to ours. We can find 990s on the IRS website, or if you have a nonprofit that you specifically want to talk to, you can ask them directly through the public disclosure requirements. There are many other organizations out there that are willing to share their information, just even more than what's on their 990, because they are going to have a similar mission to you, and they're not going to consider you competition. Maybe they're in a different geographical location. Maybe sharing information between the two organizations will benefit you both. Of course, there's other sources outside of your organization, like watchdog organizations. I'm thinking specifically of GuideStar and Charity Watch, where their information is free, but many times these organizations have a paid subscription that provide you with a search tool to make it easier to find the information that you're looking for among all of the 990s that they have on file. I did a quick Google search for nonprofit benchmarking, and I came up with several searches and found many organizations that have surveys with great information in them, too many for me to name. They have a free survey. They just want your email. So my recommendation is use your email that you use for all of your spam, get your free survey, and then you can ignore them. Or if you don't have a spam email, that's what I call it, then you're just going to have to block them after you get your survey. So that's another way to get some information. So once we have our information, we actually want to set our benchmarks. We want to look at your baseline data and determine what's reasonable for you to accomplish. Be very specific. You may be something like, what is your individual donation average per person? And maybe it's $100. Maybe that's your goal, is that you want that average individual donation to be $100. That's very specific. And it's easily measurable. That's another key to these benchmarks. They need to be easily measurable. You have the total individual donation revenue in your financial statement, and you have access to the number of individual donors. You just divide one number into the other, and easy peasy, you have your average. The third piece of this is having a timeline. So let's say your average individual donation is currently $75, but you want it to be $100. Give yourself a timeline. So your goal is to increase the average individual donation to $100 by December 31st. That's something attainable, measurable, and if you can increase your average donation by $25 per year, depending on your number of donors, that could be a pretty significant bump for your organization. The fourth step is to actually collect the data. Once you've set up what your benchmarks, your KPIs are going to be, you need to have a means of gathering the information that you need. You need to make it simple and as automated as possible. You can use customized reports in your accounting system, and many accounting systems have some baked-in dashboard information built right into them. Some of them you can even customize. Once you have your information, step 5 is to analyze your benchmarking process. Have a dedicated person or a system in place to analyze the data. Did you meet your goals? Set up the results in a table, graphical, or an easy to read KPI dashboard, but you want that easy to read something, a one-sheeter that you can look at that says, this is what we did, what's good, what's bad. Maybe you have a stoplight, green, yellow, red, to show what's doing well and what's not doing so great, what needs your attention. And make sure within this system, you set up an accountability partner. And what I mean by accountability partner is someone on your management team or your board of directors where you get together and you discuss these KPIs, your dashboard or your benchmarks on a regular basis. This will keep you accountable, keep you measuring, doing that analyzing, and talking about what is going to make your organization more efficient and better and help you meet your mission. The last step is to adjust your plans after analyzing the benchmark. Have you reached your goal? Great. Do you want to keep monitoring this particular benchmark, or do you need to pay attention to something else? What if you're making progress and you're making it faster than you expected? Wonderful. Why is that happening? What if your progress is slower than you expected? What's holding you up? Are you measuring the wrong thing? The benchmark is improving, but the expected outcome is not. That's an indicator that you're measuring the wrong thing. So look at the outcome. It's probably a little bit more complicated than you thought in the first place. And do you need to tweak the benchmark that you're using? Or is this an outcome that's going to take more than one KPI? For example, donation income and grant income would probably be measured by different KPIs, but together, if your goal is to increase your revenue, you need to do both. Benchmarking sounds easy, and once it's set up, it really is easy. But it takes some real effort and intimate knowledge of your organization to create benchmarks that will work for you. I highly recommend you take the time to set up a system that works for you and to reevaluate it on a regular basis. Start with some simple benchmarks like financial ratios, or create some graphs from your financial report so that you can see, income versus expenses in a pie chart, or even types of revenue in a pie chart. These are things that help you easily gather information and assess it and make those decisions. I encourage you to get started. The first steps won't be perfect, but you'll learn from them, and those results will help benefit your organization in the long run. I hope this was helpful. I want to thank you for joining us today. Remember, creating a bigger impact starts with stopping the nonsense. If you're dealing with nonsense in your nonprofit organization, I'd love to help you cut through the noise.